Blow it up or stick with the vets. With one of the NFL's oldest rosters, should the 49ers embrace a rebuild and secure a younger foundation or keep pushing for success with their veteran core? Right now, we already know, Tom. We understand what it is. We got the Cabo click. Okay. If we're looking at how our team is built, right about now, maybe the top 10 players on our team right now are Trent Williams, Charvarius Ward, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Diamador Lenore, Jake Brendel, Kyle Juszczyk, and Kyle Juszczyk. Is it time to double down and add pieces to this core? Or is it time for us to start making wholesale changes, right? Making some serious decisions at the end of the season where, right about now, I don't think letting go of Deebo right now is viable due to the money that he's due. Next year, Deebo's dead cap hit is at $43.3 million a year. Yeah, at a cap hit of 12. All right. So I don't think there's anybody really asking they're not going to cut Deebo, in my opinion. They might ask him, and they also just restructured him too. So I don't know. They
shouldn't have done.
They shouldn't have, but they might rip the Band-Aid off. You never know. You look at Kyle Juszczyk. Kyle Juszczyk is making $3 million in 2025. He's due for an annual base salary of $4.1 million. There's no way in God's green earth he should get 1 red cent of that money. And his dead cap hit is only $2.2 million. Bye-bye, Juice. So basically what I'm saying is what should the Niners do? Should they hold tight onto these guys, or should they start making wholesale changes and moving forward, rip the Band-Aid off, start accruing the dead cap money, don't spread it out, because we already have the Eric Armstead dead cap that's going to hit next year, right? So right about now, should we just eat it, for lack of a better term, like just plan it? Hey, next year, don't even worry about wins, because if we pace this out, we could be in dead cap purgatory for maybe like 3 to 4 more years, still trying to get these guys off the books, right? And on top of it, what type of destiny? This is beyond Kyle now. This is an organization conversation.
Correct.
What are we going to be doing as far as courting any type of viable candidate to come into this type of mess on the books? Like, fiscally, we're not an attractive team right now, if you look at it. And all of this has Kyle's fingerprints all over it. But we're left holding the bag because we got the emblem. So where do you stand with what we should do moving forward?
What we should do is look upon next year as just bloodletting. You're already going to pay Armstead all that money. And so let's just take that 1 year and say we are going to bleed dry. We're going to take all these bad contracts and get out of them. That's what I would do. Do I think they will? No. Because it's Kyle Shanahan. And Kyle's not going to do that. Kyle has got us into this mess. He's going to stay in this mess because that's who he is. And you've also got the problem, as you pointed out, of can you even get out of Deebo? You can't trade him. And if you cut him, the dead cap hit is ginormous. What are you going to do? Juice, you have to tell him to retire. Will he? Probably not. He'll say, I was just a Pro Bowler this year. And he's leading the Pro Bowl voting for fullback. Fullback shouldn't even be on the ballot for the Pro Bowl. But here we are. He can use that as an argument and say that, well, I'm still viable. But as you've shown in your film analysis, he's whiffing on some of his blocks. He needs to go. Whether they can do that or not, we'll see. Whether Kyle's willing to let go of, is Kyle willing to jettison the Cabo click? That's the question. Deebo's his buddy. Juszczyk's his buddy. Is he willing to let them go? We'll find out. Part of the reason why you need a new GM is you need separation between the GM and the players. Kyle's too close to these guys. And it factors into the decision. The decision from a football perspective is you got to get out of these guys. These contracts are just going to destroy the team. And I would rather take a year and say, we're going to have to face the full pain of it, rip the Band-Aid completely off, get the tourniquet out. We're just, here we go with all the blood. But do I think that Shanahan's willing to do that? Absolutely not, given that he could be on the hot seat going into the year. And then you tell Kyle, okay, now we're going to take on all this blood. He's not going to be willing to do that. And if he's still the GM, he's not going to choose to do that either.
Agreed, man. My biggest thing right now, and then also, this is kind of a, I don't even want to bring this up, and it feels like I'm kind of like punching down, but I'm really not. And I'm prefacing this because, we're here to tell the truth the way we see it. You know what I mean? And we're trying to put our best foot forward, but there's a world where they're going to have a conversation with Brandon Ayuk. Like that's a big deal. And I'm not, I'm trying to be as respectful as possible. Like I understand that Brandon needs to come back healthy. If Brandon Ayuk comes back not a hair less of an athlete than what he was before he came here, I will be thrilled. Right. So that's not what this is about. But if we're talking about, moving forward with, rebuilding the team and actually going to get assets and developing guys, BA is going to come back and immediately the clock is going to be ticking. I think they give him a season, but after that, I think that there's possibly some early outs that they have to deal with, that they can probably get on, or they would ask him to take a pay cut maybe just because they want to keep him, right? But an early out would basically kick him to the curb. But
right. Well, but remember that he's already received a lot of upfront money, so it's less of an issue for him in terms of the financial aspect of it. That he's received a large upfront payment. He's due another large upfront payment early in the year next year. So provided he gets those two payments, I think Ayuk will be willing to be more flexible in terms of what happens going forward. As Kawachipto says in the chat, there are early outs in that contract. So there are paths that the Niners can choose to take, and they might have to. And we'll see. But basically it comes down to, is Brandon going to be back to who he was? And if so, that makes him more viable in terms of using him as a trade asset. But I think that financially, they're going to have to get their house in order. Part of that is going to be moving on from Ayuk when they can.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate the way things play out, but I mean, it changes in the blink of an eye. And right now, the only thing about it is, okay, I get wanting to be in a window, and I understand wanting to preserve a regime, but at the same time, we can put ourselves in a really bad position trying to hold on to names and trying to stay. Yeah. Like trying to keep a feeling, like this version of the 49ers was awesome, right? And it still is. However, they're on notice, especially, and a lot of it is because of the contracts. So right now, if we want to be, teams that we look at that make these types of deals, that are even in our own damn division, then we've got to actually make some hardcore decisions right now. I think, and I believe like it can't wait a year or two from now, where it can't wait 2 years from now. Like this all season is going to be big, right? Yes. You're going to think about this. We got to look at Christian McCaffrey coming back, being what he's supposed to be. Also, oh my God, another thing, another contract that they got to get rid of, Javon Hargraves.
Yeah.
They got to get rid of.
His base salary next year is $19.9 million. They've got to move on. His cap hits 28. They have to move on from Hargrave.
They gotta move on. He cannot play for us next year. That's a huge contract. But you see what I'm saying? Like all of this dead weight, a lot of this stuff made sense when we were like chasing a Super Bowl. I get all of that. Yeah. But now we gotta come back and retool, and having that type of money into one guy who wasn't really living up to the contract to begin with. Right. We gotta move on. Right. So it is what it is, Tom.
He's an absolute. But part of this is just that you have to decide, how do you get back to being a Super Bowl contender? And I think that the answer to that is you're going to have to get your financial house in order first.